What's up, guys? Welcome back to another video, and I'm super particularly excited for this video because I'm launching the first installment of what I'm going to be calling the Let's Talk Fat Loss series with me, yours truly, Andrew. That being said, this first installment is going to be all about why you've never managed to get the fat loss results that you really want, that you actually want, why you've always failed, or why you've gotten on the wagon and fallen off the wagon. And we're going to talk about all of those reasons today. One builds off of the next, and what I think you'll see is that you might get down the line a little bit and then fall off. You might get through steps 1 and 2 and fall off. You may get all the way to step 5, but you fall off. And ultimately, the missing link of one of those pieces is why it just never works out for people. So number one, the easiest and most obvious reason that most people never get the fat loss results they want is because they've just never made a plan. Now, this isn't supposed to be a dig at anybody listening and watching, but if you've never made a plan for your fat loss goal, all that really means is that the only way that you've actually interacted with this idea of losing fat is by letting it sort of rattle around in your head. Now, I am probably more guilty of this than anybody because my fascination for so long was Brad Pitt from the movie Troy. I've put that in blogs, I've put that on social media. It is what it is. I just remember watching that movie and being like, that is incredible. Like, that to me is like the epitome of like the masculine physique. I just thought it was super cool and I was drawn to it from the first time I saw the movie. Now, that being said, I did exactly what I am telling you not to do in this video. Basically what happened was I got infatuated with Brad Pitt from Troy and I never did anything about it. I watched the movie and I thought, man, I'm going to be like Brad. It's going to be awesome. And then guess what? I never made a plan. So without beating a dead horse, the number one reason that most people never get the fat loss results that they really want is because they never make a plan. They stay in that dreamer phase for too long. Or they say ambiguous things like, this is the year when I'm going to turn it around, but they never do. Now, the second reason I think is a little bit less obvious, and it actually tugs on the heartstrings a little bit, so brace yourself. But I think the second reason that people never get the results they want is because they never just get to that place where they're vulnerable enough to ask for help, or maybe to even realize that they just don't know what they're doing and they can't do it by themselves. And that's super reasonable and that's super fair because if you haven't noticed, in our current fitness climate, there is so much bad information out there. It is horrible. If you go to Hy-Vee or Walmart or wherever you shop and you just take a little bit of a peek at the tabloid section, you are going to see crazy things. You're going to see things like, I lost 47 pounds in 16 days on super keto. First of all, I don't even know what super keto is. Second of all, nobody loses that much weight in a healthy manner, in a sustainable manner. But what's happened is that we see those things and we become conditioned to think that they are not only possible, but normal. And that's just simply not the case. So the second reason about just being a little bit too afraid to admit that you need help, I just want to encourage people to just kind of be courageous and embrace the fact that it's okay that you need help. A good friend of mine, when we were talking the other day, told me, it's funny that when people buy homes for the first time, they hire a real estate agent. Or when you have long-term financial plans, you hire a financial investor. And even whenever parents teach their kids how to ride a bike, when kids fall off, a lot of times the kids would just quit. But you have someone there to help you get back on the bike, to show you how to ride a bike, to help you balance, to put the training wheels on. And what I find really interesting about body recomposition or people who want to lose body fat is they typically try to do it all by themselves and they just don't know what they're doing, or they're too immature to see what needs to be done in the context of the bigger picture. So I think what it comes down to is just being okay with the fact that you need help and reaching out to that person to find help. So third reason, getting sort of like increasingly complex as we sort of move through these reasons, but you've never committed to redefining your own diet and movement culture. And I mean, that's a huge practical point because you're just never going to get fat loss, period, if you don't implement the scientific principles that actually lead to fat loss. So when I say redefine your diet and your movement culture, I think some people think that you can sort of do whatever you want and lose body fat, or you can take a certain product. Maybe there's some mysterious brand of kombucha, or maybe apple cider vinegar really is the magic potion for fat loss. But I think people aren't thinking of it on a big enough level to realize that the culture of your life is what is going to lead to sustainable results. So what do I mean when I say you have to redefine your own diet and movement culture? Well, basically, you have to set your sights on a methodology for fat loss and then actually do it. But the thing is, it can't be a phase. Anybody who's ever dieted or exercised and it became phasic just bounced back to their former self once the phase was over. So that's why culture is so important. And I don't necessarily want to tell you what your culture should be, but I can tell you about my culture because I sometimes think it's just helpful for someone else to talk about theirs. So the culture of my life in terms of diet and exercise is that I absolutely prioritize working out with weights at the gym. That's the way that I like to exercise for my goal. So I go to my gym 5 to 6 times a week, and that's a part of my life. Like, that's what I do. It's not a thing we're doing for 8 weeks. It's not a thing we're doing for 16 weeks. It's just what I do, and it's what I love. And on the food side of things, the culture of my life is to eat 4 to 5 high protein meals per day because I know that scientifically speaking, getting protein in that quantity, in that frequency, is going to lead me down a road of having an improved body composition. It's just how it works. And so based on the goal that I had, I rewound and defined my culture to support that goal. And I think simply put, most people never get there. They never redefine their culture. They keep going on eating their frosted mini donut bites in the morning. They continue to go to Starbucks and get their super calorically dense sugary drinks. They continue doing things that even might seem healthy, like perhaps going to certain classes that don't actually do much for their goal. Maybe they burn a little bit of calories, but they don't actually have any muscle building properties. And what they really want is to look lean and mean in the new year. So, number 3, are you redefining? Are you willing to redefine your diet and movement culture for your goal? I think the 4th reason that people never get the fat loss results they really want is because they never commit to learning the skills that they need to accomplish the goal. And I think if you take the analogy, I once wrote about this in a blog, but if you take the analogy of somebody who sculpts clay and makes beautiful work out of clay, you have to know a few things about the craft in order to do that. You can't just approach the ball of clay and slap clay on the 2B piece of art without knowing anything about clay. You're going to need to know how to mix the clay. You're going to need to know how to shape the clay. And you might even need a few actual tools to chip away at the clay and to form it the way you want, to create what you want. And I think people just miss the ball on that one in terms of body recomposition. Because, for example, learning what is in food so that you can make good choices about what kind of calories you're consuming is a skill. You can't just be a robot and do that by somebody like slotting some kind of macro chip into your forearm. That's not how it works. So what I'm thinking is you've got to learn about macros. You've got to learn about the importance of protein. You've got to learn about energy balance. You've probably got to learn how to exercise in a way that you both enjoy and is functional for the goal. So if you like to lift weights and you kind of want to look jacked, you're going to have to learn how to lift weights. Nobody can do that for you. And I think people just don't do that. They don't apply themselves to the extent that they need to get the goal. The 5th reason I think people never get the results they want is because, this is so big, but they've just never been disciplined enough for long enough, consistently enough to get the results they want. And I think a lot of this comes down to expectations. People don't realize that losing 2 pounds of body fat per week is awesome. Everybody wants life to move faster than that. And I get it. If you've got 50 pounds to lose, nobody wants to think that, man, maybe that would actually take, like, at minimum 25 weeks to accomplish. And probably more realistically, 50 weeks, which would be an entire year. Nobody wants to do that. And it goes back to culture. Nobody wants to switch the culture of their life for a full year to become the person that they think they want to be. And that's tough. So I think it's worth being honest with yourself and asking, have I ever actually been disciplined? Have I ever acted like an adult for long enough to make this happen? Most people haven't. The next reason that I think people never get the results they want in terms of fat loss is simply because they've never wanted it badly enough. And I like this one, and I like to toss this one into the video because it's kind of it ruffles feathers. Nobody likes to be told that they didn't want something badly enough, or nobody wants to be put in that category of the person who just was talking the talk but never walked the walk. Nobody wants to be pegged as an imposter or somebody who only ever dreamt about something but never did anything about it. But it's true. If you've had a goal for a long time and you failed and you failed and you failed and it was doable, you just didn't really want it badly enough. And that's okay. I'm not trying to make anybody feel bad about it, but I think it's worth saying in a video super candidly to everyone that if you've never achieved your goal, there's a really good chance that you just never wanted it badly enough. And to piggyback off of that, the final reason people don't get the results they want is because their motivations just aren't deep enough. I don't think it's enough to have seen a movie and to have admired a superhero's physique and to say, that's it. That's my reason. I'm going to get super fit. I've heard people say, my kids are making fun of me. I've heard people say that they can't keep up with their kids. And family and relationships always tend to be a really big theme when people get deeply motivated to fix their health, to fix their body composition. Because if you think about it, people tend to get a little bit sentimental when it comes to their body weight. I've never met somebody who was super duper overweight who was just really, really happy and really convinced that that was the best story for their life. Usually, people know that they will live longer and be able to spend more time with friends and loved ones if they have a healthy body. And not only that, I've personally seen in my own life people age, not take care of themselves, and just settle into a lot of really unfortunate health issues that maybe couldn't all have been prevented, but some of them could have prevented. Had people just made better choices with food, kept their body weight under control, exercised, lifted weights, and just lived a healthier lifestyle. So that being said, make sure your motivations are deep enough. So let's just recap really quickly. The number one reason that you've never gotten the success you want is because you've never made a plan. The second reason is that you've likely never been vulnerable enough to ask somebody for help. Number 3, you've never fully committed to redefining the diet and movement culture of your life. Number 4 is that you've never committed to learning the skills that you know you need to accomplish the goal. After that, number 5 is simply that you've never been disciplined enough to actually implement the skills. And then just after that, you've never been patient enough to give the process enough time to actually yield the fruits that you want. And lastly, a bit of a sucker punch, you've just never wanted it badly enough. And for anyone who's never wanted it badly enough, I'm okay letting that one sting a little bit. I think it's a really powerful motivation to want to prove yourself wrong. No one else but yourself. And if you're realizing that perhaps you've never wanted it badly enough, you can change that story. You don't have to let that be the story. And finally, as a bit of a bonus, your motivations just perhaps aren't deep enough. If your motivations are superficial, and maybe primarily based on vanity, it works for some people, but not many, then I would encourage you to think a little bit more deeply. Get excited about the fact that having a muscular body that's lean is just a really good way to live your life. I mean, you can eat all the best foods, all the most nutritious foods. You can do things. You can climb mountains. You can lift heavy objects. You can feel good in your clothes. You can feel good at the pool. And for your significant other, it can be a gift to them to be in good shape, to steward your body well for your loved one. So just consider that. Are your motivations as deep as they need to be? And that's going to be it, everybody. I really appreciate you tuning in for this. I know that there is a ton of content competing for your attention on the interwebs. So sincerely, thank you for tuning in. If you haven't yet, go ahead and subscribe to the channel. Like the video. You would be the sweetest of peaches if you were to do that for me. I'm new to YouTube, and I've been having a really good time doing this stuff. So thank you so much again to everybody. We will catch you in the next video. If you are interested in coaching, information is below. I'm doing that right now. And yes, I do have slots for clients. Thanks so much, guys. We'll catch you next time.